in my dining room right now, I've got a kitchen and dining room kind of open combination. And this I made forever ago. And great, the dog's gonna be barking. And she doesn't listen to me, so if I tell her to be quiet, it doesn't really matter. But I had this old mirror, and I don't even remember what the frame color was originally, but what I ended up doing was I painted the frame, I sanded it down, I actually went over it with a dry brush of black a little bit just to give it some dimension. And then I took a wide piece of painter's tape and put it around the border and then painted it with chalk paint. Now, there is a nice hole right here, which I always said that I would patch. Now, years later, I've never patched it. Let's be honest, I never am going to. You're not even gonna notice that. I notice it because I see it. And we put our tree up yesterday, and my son wore this hat and drove my daughter nuts. So it was good fighting all day yesterday. So this is just a simple way to change out a mirror and do the chalk paint. Whenever you do a chalkboard though, make sure that you take your chalk, and I can't even remember what they call it now, but you kind of have to prep the surface. So you go over the whole thing with your chalk flat and then clean it off and then write. And that's supposed to help with the first time that you write on something with chalk. If you haven't done that, seasoned it is the word. If you haven't done that, then chances are you are going to be able to see whatever you wrote that first time forever. And that is one of the reasons when I do things on the chalkboard, unless I'm gonna have it be something permanent, if I wanna change it out like I do on this chalkboard, then I use chalk versus a chalk marker or chalk pen. The chalk pens, they write really nice because it's like writing with a marker, an expo marker on a board, so they're nice and smooth, but to me, they stain every time. So you are always, then you wash it off, you're still gonna see whatever was written on there. So for that reason, I like to do chalk. So when I'm gonna do a chalkboard, I cheat, okay? So I'll go to Pinterest and I'll do a little search. And this time I just searched Christmas, and I kind of saw that tons of things popped up with trees. Obviously, lots of things popped up with Merry Christmas, and kind of the idea with that, when I look, I know I'm somewhat artistically talented, but when you're on a video, I want it to be something simple. Or maybe you know that you're not that artistic and you need it to be simple. So if you are getting search results and you're looking and you're like, this is too complicated for me, or it looks really hard, then just skip that one and go to a different one, because there are literally tons of super simple displays, visuals, signs, boards, whatever you want to call them, that you can copy that are simple, okay? So just keep looking and pick one that is a simple design. So I kind of like to try on just a piece of paper with a marker or pen or whatever, and just kind of sketch some things out and see what I like. So Merry Christmas is going to be pretty easy. The only thing that I can tell when I do this, and that's another thing when I was looking for what display or what design to pick, my surface is very vertical and skinny. So a lot of them were more going landscape, going horizontally. Well, I don't have enough room to do that, so I wanted to pick something that was going to work in a taller, skinnier place. And you can also pick and choose. You like this word and the fonts on this one, but you like this image, you can totally pick and choose those. So I first sketch things out. Now, the thing that I did with the Merry Christmas that I realized is that I don't really want the M and C to be stacked on top of each other. I want it to be more centered, and I want my M to drop down. So in order for my M to drop down and my Christmas to be over a little bit, I'm gonna have to have my C and H on this side of the M so that I can drop it down. So that's kind of a mental note when I put it up on the chalkboard. The other thing to remember is the chalkboard is super forgiving. You just erase it. So you get some wet paper towel or a wet rag. You can also wet a cotton swab if you have a really thin spot that you need to touch up, and you can just start completely over as well. The only downside to that is that you have to let it dry to restart. And then I think I'm gonna do a Christmas tree on top of it, and you can see I tried out like a million Christmas trees just to kind of see which one I liked, and I think I'm just gonna go ahead and go with this squiggly one. So then I just basically look at it and sketch it out, and here is my longer piece of chalk. And it's gonna be a little bit hard for you to see, but I think that I'm gonna do Merry here, Christmas here, and then do my tree up here a little bit higher. So Merry should not take up the entire space, so I'm gonna start over just a little bit, and then I'm basically just going to draw it. Woo! Okay, and then you can attach the M and E, which it is attached here, so I could come back down here and do something like this, and then come and erase that little tail, which would be fine. And then kind of, but you can't, oh darn it, you can't just leave it like that. You're going to want to thicken your letters. It's what kind of makes it more professional looking. I'm just drying this because otherwise I'm not going to be able to write Christmas if it's super wet. So kind of the trick when you're doing your letters is on every time you're going down with your chalk, you're going to make it thicker. So I went down on this M, part of the M, so I'm going to make that thicker. I go up, I'm going down, I'm going up, I'm going down. And then you can go back in and you can kind of fill in the gaps between your two lines. And my chalk is just all willy-nilly. It's just whatever it was. So that can make it difficult sometimes to line up your lines. You can add a little ball there at the end of your Y if you want to, pretty it up, and then you can just step back and kind of touch up what letters you need to. If you want to go thicker in places, you can totally do that. So that is just kind of a little trick. So now I know that I want to do CH here and then do the rest of my Christmas. And my Y and my M are kind of at the same height. So for the most part, I need to keep the smaller case letters on Christmas down here. You don't want everything to be perfectly lined up. So I am habit of staying in the lines. Okay, everything is just perfectly lining up, but it is nice to vary the bottom part of your letters as you're doing this as well. So it's okay to do a letter at a time and then to stop and connect it after you've done your letters. It doesn't really matter. Like I said, it's forgiving. So if I look at this, I'm really going downhill, right? And one thing that you can do also is I might go down here and do a little kind of dotted line so that I know that I'm not going downhill or uphill as I am writing it. So then this looks like it's going to be decently dry, so we'll go ahead. All I need to do is try and get my eye in there. I can always redo the dot. and do something like a snowflake, which you can just do like little arrows on the end and then come back and do some arrows, okay? And try and make a little snowflake for your eye, but I think that looks better. It's a little more in line. And then you can just come back, clean up your little dots, your markings to yourself. So then we're gonna top it with a tree right here. Okay, so I think I should have gone wider right there. And then you can always go through here and fix that. And just some random dots for ornaments. Probably the biggest thing with your dots is you don't want them to be all in line. You want them to be willy-nilly. Okay? And then for my star, I'm just going to do a star and then fill it in. And yeah, I think that looks good. Okay, so there is the finished product. There is quite a bit of gap in there. It would have probably been better if I dropped my tree down, which I might go and do that since it's just a really simple fix. That's the thing with chalk, it's super forgiving. So you can do something, you don't like it, erase it, move it up, move it down, change it, look up something different and do it that way.